Yes. So hello student, this is my second lecture on the course Design and Analysis of Algorithm. So in my last lecture I have covered the introduction part of this course. So in that portion I have covered what is an algorithm and what are the factors which determine the efficiency of an algorithm, and basically I have discussed two parameters which decide the efficiency of an algorithm, like the time complexity and the space complexity. So an algorithm is said to be efficient if its time complexity and space complexity are minimum. So in this lecture we will see how to represent the time complexity of algorithms using certain notations. So this lecture 2 is all about asymptotic notation. So now these asymptotic notations are primarily used to describe the running times of algorithm, and in this notation, asymptotic notation, we describe the running time of an algorithm in terms of certain functions, and those functions acquire some limiting value when its input size or the input parameter approaches certain value, or we can say it approaches infinity. Okay, so just remember, asymptotic notations are used to describe the running time of an algorithm. Now one thing you also remember, in the last class I have mentioned there are three different running time we can find for a given algorithm. First one I have told you, the best case running time, second one is the worst case running time, and the third one is the average case running time. Okay, so in this asymptotic notation we shall be describing the running time of algorithm in terms of the input size n, right? So various notations I shall be discussing here is theta notation. Next I shall be discussing big O notation, then big omega, followed by little o notation, then finally I shall go through little omega notation. So let us start with this theta notation, how this theta notation can be used to express the running time of an algorithm, right? So now this theta notation, it is denoted by the symbol theta, right? And this theta notation is used to express the running time of an algorithm which will have some asymptotic upper bound and which will have some asymptotic lower bound. So let me go through the formal definition of theta notation first, then I'll explain you details, right? So given a function fn, it can be expressed as, given a function fn, it can be expressed as theta of gn. So actually I can also write in reverse way also, fn equal to theta of gn, or you can write theta of gn equal to all fn. So this is permitted if fn is sandwiched, value of fn is sandwiched between c1 into gn and c2 into gn, means the value of fn lies between these particular two things, okay, where c1 and c2 are two constants and the value of this input n is more than some critical value n0. Okay, so fn can be expressed as theta of gn if fn lies between this particular thing for some positive constant c1 and c2 and some, or for all n whose value is greater than n0, right? So graphically we can represent this theta notation like this. So fn is theta of gn, means value of fn is sandwiched between c1 gn and c2 gn. c1 and c2 are positive constant, right? Okay, so now let's say this is the curve represent fn, and this curve represent c2 into gn, and this, the below curve represents c1 into gn. So now clearly you can mark from this point onward, okay, Fn always lies between C1Gn and C2Gn. Okay, so we can take this particular point as N0 because from this point onward Fn is sandwiched between C1Gn and C2Gn. Okay, so if this happens, then we can write Fn equal to theta of Gn. Okay, so we can say here this big theta notation are used to represent the time complexity where it has some asymptotic lower bound and as well as it has some asymptotic upper bound, right? So now we can write Fn equal to theta of Gn if Fn lies between C1 into Gn and C2 into Gn, and symbolically we can also write like this: Fn belongs to theta of Gn, right? Or we can say Fn is also a member of Gn, right? So we shall take a very simple example. We have to prove that n square by 2 minus 3n is equal to theta of n square, right? So how to prove this? So clearly this will be our Fn and this will be our Gn, right? So we have to prove that Fn is equal to theta of Gn. So Fn equal to this and Gn equal to this, right? So target is to prove that Fn value lies between C1Gn and C2Gn for some suitable positive constant value of C1 and C2 and some suitable value of N0, right? So we'll write Fn lies between C2Gn and C1Gn, right? So now dividing both sides by n square, we shall be getting 1 by 2 minus 3 by n. So this particular thing is greater than C1 and less than C2. So main target here is to find the value of positive constant C1, C2 and N0. So now we'll try to find the value of this 1 by 2 minus 3 by n for all suitable values of n. So just make two column, value of n, and next column is the value of this 1 by 2 minus 3 by n. So for n equal to 1, this value will be 1 by 2 minus 3. So 1 by 2 minus 3 is, it is 0.5 minus 3, it is minus 2.5. So now for n equal to 2, it will be minus 1.0, and similarly for n equal to 3, this value, for n equal to 4, this value, for n equal to 5, this value. But we cannot consider all these values. Why? Because these are all negative values. So time cannot be negative, right? So now for n equal to 6, the value of 1 by 2 minus 3n will be 0, right? So again here also it is 0. So we have to start from always the positive value. So now for n equal to 7, it will be 1 by 2 minus 3 by 7, and the value is 1 by 14, right? So this is the starting point, we can say. So the value of C1, right, it is 1 by 14, and if we will keep on increasing the value of n, the final value of n we can assume it to be infinite, and for n equal to infinite it will be 1 by 2 minus 0, right? 3 by infinite it is 0, so it will be 1 by 2, right? So this is going to be the C2 value, right, the final value, and the initial value it is for C1. Okay, so now this positive value start from, for what value of n? For n equal to 7. So we can say that the value of n0 is 7. Okay, so we can say that this particular thing is theta of n square for C1 equal to 1 by 14 and C2 equal to 1 by 2 and n0 equal to 7, right? So just remember one thing, once again I am telling you, Fn is said to be theta of Gn if the value of Fn is sandwiched between C1 Gn and C2 into Gn, right? So similarly you can also go through this example. We have to prove that n square plus 5n plus 6 equal to theta of n square. So one general formula you can remember here, if you are having a polynomial of degree k, so it is always theta of n power k, right? So if the highest power appearing on this LHS is n power like 100, so obviously it will be theta of n power 100, because we always try to consider the term with highest power. The terms with lower powers can be neglected for very high value of n, right? Because for example, if you are writing n square plus n, for small value of n square and n value may be closer, but for a very high value of n, the distance between n square and n will be very less, so you can ignore those value of n, right? So this is what all about what asymptotic notation. We have to check the behavior of the function for sufficiently large value of n, or when n tends to infinite, right? So you just go through this example. So similarly, in this case we are also finding c1 equal to 1, c2 equal to 12, and n0 equal to 1, right? So next one is big O notation, and it is denoted by this capital O, right? So given any function fn, we can say fn is big O Gn. Fn is said to be big O Gn if fn is less than equal to c into Gn for some constant, positive constant c, and for some, or for all values of n where n greater than equal to n0, right? So you can say this asymptotic this big O notation are used to find the asymptotic upper bound. Okay, just remember theta notation was used to find both asymptotic lower bound and upper bound, but big O notation is used to just find the asymptotic upper bound, right? So fn should lie below this value c into Gn. So graphically we can represent like this. So if this portion represent fn and this curve represent c into Gn, then this fn value should be always less than equal to c into Gn. So I think this happens from this particular point, because before that the fn value is sometimes coming below c into Gn, and sometimes it is coming above c into Gn, but from this point onward always the value of fn is less than c into Gn. So we can say this is the threshold n value of n, or n0, okay, from which onwards the value of fn is always less than c into Gn, right? So we will write fn is equal to big O Gn, right? So if fn is equal to big O Gn, then also using set notation we can write fn is a member of this, or fn belongs to big O Gn, or we can say fn is a member of Gn, right? So it is obvious that if fn is equal to theta of Gn, so we can say also fn is equal to big O Gn, because fn means it is finding both asymptotic upper bound and lower bound. So if we are finding both asymptotic upper bound and lower bound, it means it will have definitely some asymptotic upper bound. So fn is equal to theta of Gn means it is always obvious that fn is also big O Gn, right? So we can write 3n plus 2 is equal to big O n, right? Because this particular value, it is always less than c into Gn. So Gn is your what? N, right? So you just do one thing, put n equal to 1, so it will be 3 plus 2, 5, right? So 3n plus 2 is always less than equal to 5n, right? So this is Gn, this is fn, and this particular is constant, is the constant c. So fn is always less than equal to c into Gn, right? So similarly you just go through all these examples. So here it is a printing mistake, right? It will be order of nq, right? Just mark, it will be order of nq. So just go through all these examples, right? So for big O notation, once again I am telling you, fn should be always less than equal to c into Gn. Target is to find some suitable values of c, right? Okay. Just go through these examples. Right. Again I think there is a small printing mistake. It will be order of n power m, right? you can check here, order of n power n. So these are very simple question, you just go through them. Okay, so next we shall be starting with big omega notations. So as already told you, theta notation finds both asymptotic upper bound and lower bound, but big O notation only gives us notion about asymptotic upper bound. So this omega notation, big omega notation, gives us notion about only asymptotic lower bound, right? So given a function fn, we can write fn is equal to big omega gn when the value of fn is greater than c into gn. So here our target is to find the value of c. For what value of c? Fn is always greater than c into gn, and also you have to find the value of n0, from which point onwards this fn always greater than equal to c into gn, right? So graphically we can represent like this. Let's say this curve represent fn and this curve represents c into gn, right? So here in this big omega notation, fn value should be always greater than c into gn, right? So now up to this point the curve of this fn is quite peculiar, because sometimes it is lying below c into gn, sometimes it is going above c into gn. Okay, but from this point onward the value of fn is always greater than c into gn, right? So we can say this is the value of n0, and we can say fn is equal to big omega gn. So as already told, fn equal to big omega gn means we can write fn is a member of the set big omega gn, or yes, fn is a member of gn. And one more thing, as already told you, fn is equal to theta of gn means we can, theta of gn means it gives us both lower bound, asymptotic lower bound, and asymptotic upper bound. So we can write fn is equal to big omega gn. Also you can write fn equal to big O gn, already told earlier, right? So fn is equal to theta of gn means we can say fn is also big O gn, and it is also fn is big omega gn. Okay, so similarly like big O notation, you can verify all these things, right? Here this fn value should be greater than equal to c into gn. Target is to, you have to find the suitable value of c and n, right? Okay, so you just go through this example. I already told you fn is equal to theta of gn means, because theta notation means it gives both gives us both asymptotic lower bound and upper bound, so both thing will happen. So fn is equal to theta of gn means we can write fn is equal to big O gn as well as fn is equal to big omega gn, right? So you just go through this example as well. This is a very simple example. Okay, so let me tell you this example. This is a good example. So let fn and gn be asymptotically non-negative functions. So both fn and gn are positive functions, and using the basic definition of theta notation, prove that fn plus gn is equal to theta of maximum of fn gn. So this particular thing means the maximum value out of fn and gn. It's like if fn is n square and gn is n power 4, so obviously their max value is going to be n power 4, right? So how to prove this, right? So as already told you, fn is equal to theta of gn means fn is big O gn as well as fn is big omega gn. So here I will apply the same concept, right? So my target here is to prove that fn plus gn is big O this part, as well as I have to prove that fn plus gn is big omega this. Okay, so if I am able to prove this, then I can say fn plus gn is equal to theta of this, right? Okay, so clearly here I have written to prove this particular thing, we need to show that this is big O as well as big omega, right? So now how to prove these two things, right? So now since both fn and gn are positive non-negative functions, so we can write fn plus gn is greater than equal to fn, because if x and y are both positive integers, then we can write x plus y is always greater than equal to x, or we can say x plus y greater than equal to y for all positive values of x and y, right? So you can write fn plus gn greater than equal to fn as well as fn plus gn greater than equal to gn. Okay. So now if we will combine these two, right? If we will combine these two, so we will be getting fn plus gn greater than equal to maximum value out of this fn and gn. Right. For example, we are writing x greater than 3 and x greater than 5. If we are combining these two, then we will be getting what? X greater than 5, because 5 is maximum out of what? 3 and 5, right? So if we are writing x greater than 5 means it is also satisfying what? X greater than 3, right? So similarly, fn plus gn greater than equal to fn and fn plus gn greater than equal to gn means fn plus gn is greater than equal to max of this fn and gn. Okay. So I think this is the definition of what? Big omega notation. Fn is greater than equal to c into gn. That is asymptotic lower bound. So we can write fn plus gn is big omega max of this person. So now our target is to prove this. Right. So for that we have to prove that this particular thing, it is less than equal to this. Right. So now we can write fn plus gn is less than equal to 2 max fn gn. Always obvious it is, because we can always write x plus y is always less than equal to 2x if x is greater than y. Right. For example, we can always write 7 plus 5 is less than equal to 2 into 7. Okay. So always remember x plus y is always less than equal to 2 into maximum out of x and y. Right. Right. So I think this is the definition of what? Big O notation. Particular function less than equal to this. So this is gn, right? This is what? Gn, and this is c. So we can write fn plus gn is equal to big O max of this is gn, right? So fn is big omega gn, or this total function, and fn is also, or the total function is also big O this. So by combining these two, we can say fn plus gn is equal to theta of x, right? So now these are the main asymptotic notation we use to represent the time complexity of any algorithms. Theta notation, where we find both upper bound and lower bound. Next one I have discussed the big O notation, where we just concerned about the asymptotic upper bound, and big omega notation, where we are interested only about the asymptotic lower bound, right? So now two more notation I shall discuss here. These are also very frequently used. One is little o notation, right? Another is little omega, right? So the definition of this little o notation, it is quite similar to the definition of big O notation. Okay. And let's say fn be a function, so we can write fn is equal to little o gn if it's like that, fn big O notation, right? So fn less than c into gn, right? So one thing you just mark here, the difference between big O and little o. In that case we are writing what? Less than equal to, right? But here we are not writing that less than, we are just writing what? Less than. So we can say big O notation gives us the asymptotic upper bound which is tight, right? But this also gives us the asymptotic upper bound, but that is not tight because it is less than this particular thing, and the whole thing remains same, right? Right. So this is for big O, right, and this is for little o, right? Okay. So one more interesting thing we can find here, if we are saying fn is little o gn, right? Fn is equal to little o gn, then this particular thing will be true, means if fn is equal to little o gn, we can write limit n tends to infinite fn by gn is always 0. So if this particular condition happens to be true, then we can always say that fn is little o gn, right? So similarly we can have one more notation that is called little omega, and it is quite similar to that big omega notation, and difference is that in that case fn was greater than equal to c into gn, but in this case fn will be only greater than c into gn. So big omega notation gives us the asymptotic lower bound which is tight, right? And this also gives us the asymptotic lower bound but which is not tight. And if we are writing this fn is equal to little omega gn, then this thing always happens to be true, right? Limit n tends to infinite fn by gn will be always infinite. Okay, so if this happens, we can say fn is little omega gn, right? Okay, so let me summarize the thing. Fn is equal to little o gn means limit fn by gn n tends to infinite is 0. Fn is equal to little omega gn means we can write limit fn by gn n tends to infinite infinite, and fn is equal to theta of gn means we can say limit fn by gn n tends to infinite equal to some positive constant c, right? So next very simple question, we have to prove that n plus a power b is equal to theta of n power d. Okay, so this case this is fn and this portion is what, gn, right? So you just write fn equal to this and gn equal to this, right? So now let us try to find the value of limit fn by gn for n tends to infinite. So limit n tends to infinite, fn value is n plus b power b by n power b. Okay, so just divide this by both what, n and b. For example, we can write x plus y by 2 equal to x by 2 plus y by 2. Okay, so in this case it will be n by n plus b by n, because both are having power b. So n by n is 1, so 1 plus b by n. So now by the value of, yes, there is a simple mistake here, 20 mistake. This will be limit, right? This will be what? Limit. So limit n tends to infinite 1 plus b by n power b. So the value of b by n will be what? 0, because n tends to infinite. So yes. So now clearly limit fn by gn n tends to infinite is a constant value c, positive. Again it is what? Positive. So we can write fn is equal to theta of gn. You just check this point. Fn is equal to theta of gn means limit fn by gn is equal to c for n tends to infinite, right? So now these, I think these three formulas very useful or handy to prove whether a function fn is little o gn or little omega gn or theta of gn, right? So now again this one is very interesting question, and I think this one is a previous GATE question, right? So which function grows faster, n power 3 by 2 or n log n, right? So how to do this? You just take this one is what, fn, and this one is what, gn. Okay, so now let's just compare the value of fn and gn, right? So let me find the value of limit fn by gn n tends to infinite. So limit n tends to infinite, fn is what, assumption n by 3 by 2, n power 3 by 2, and it is n log n. So this n will cancel out, so here it will be only n power 1 by 2. So n power 1 by 2 log n. So now in mathematics you might have studied this particular limit is in the form of what, infinite by infinite form. So we cannot substitute the limit value here, because these are called invalid limits, like what, the form of infinite by infinite or 0 by 0. Okay, so we cannot evaluate them directly. So for that we have a formula called L'Hospital rule. Okay, so in L'Hospital rule we have to take the differentiation of both numerator and denominator. So differentiation of n power 1 by 2 is 1 by 2 root n, and differentiation of log n is what, 1 by n. So this whole thing 1 by 2 into n power 1 by 2, this is the differentiation of n power 1 by 2. So you just check the differentiation formula, right? And this 1 by n is the differentiation of log n. So after simplification it will be n power 1 by 2 by 2. Okay, so now putting the value of n infinite here, again it is the value is infinite, right? So value is infinite means we can say Fn is little omega gn. So Fn is little omega gn means this little omega gives us what? The asymptotic lower bound. It means this Fn is greater than this gn. So we can say n power 3 by 2 grows faster than n log n, right? So similarly you can prove all this. Very simple question, you just apply that limit formula, or you can use the trivial method by choosing that suitable value of c and n0, right? Okay, so here I have demonstrated two methods. First one is by using the simple definition of little o and little omega, and secondly I have applied that very simple handy formula, limit formula, right? Okay, so I'll just WhatsApp you all these stuffs to your WhatsApp group. Okay, so just try to correlate. Okay, so now next I shall go through all these things you can follow very easily, right? The property like transitivity in discrete mathematics I have told you already, right? Transitivity, reflexivity, right? Reflexivity in mathematics we say x is a ordered pair, means it is a reflexive relation. Okay, so Fn is always theta of itself, Fn, so that is reflexive. Similarly you can write Fn is big O Fn, right? Symmetric, you know, x related to y means y related to x. So Fn is equal to theta of gn means gn will be theta of Fn, right? So you just go through all these things. But let me tell you this simple thing. This is a very interesting comparison about our asymptotic notation we use to determine the time complexities of algorithm, and the normal arithmetic operation we use in mathematics for simple comparison between any two numerical values, right? So now this Fn equal to theta of gn, it is quite similar to this expression a equal to b, right? This Fn is equal to b goes gn, it is similar to a less than equal to b. Already I have told you Fn is equal to b goes gn means Fn is less than equal to c into gn. Fn is equal to Fn is equal to v omega gn means the definition is like that Fn is greater than equal to c into gn. So you can write it is somehow similar to a greater than equal to b. And Fn is equal to little o gn means a is less than b, and Fn is equal to little omega gn means a is greater than b, right? And this is a very important concept, you just go through it, right? If any doubt you just WhatsApp me, right? This concept of trichotomy, right? This says there are certain functions, right, which have not asymptotic upper bound and lower bound. Okay, the curves are quite peculiar, right? So they will behave differently. Up to some value they will grow, then after certain value they will decrease, right? So you just go through it. Any doubt you just WhatsApp me, right? Okay, so now this is a very handy formula, you can say. You just remember, this is very useful for your GATE examinations. How do you compare the asymptotic growth of functions, right? So the smallest function is always logarithmic, then above logarithmic we have polylogarithmic, then we have square root, then linear, then linear arithmetic, then quadratic, then cubic, then exponential. So in exponential we have three possibilities like 2 power n, n factorial, and n power n. Again, out of them the highest is n power n, n factorial 2 power n. Okay. So again and again I am saying you might be or you might have some confusion that these values are quite nearer. Okay, for example, we are putting the value of n is equal to 1, then it is 2, it is 1, and this is 1 power 1, and this one is coming what? Lower, actually higher. This one is 2 power 1 means this one is higher than these two values, right? Okay, but here I am telling you about what? Asymptotic growth of function. Asymptotic means we have to take sufficiently large value of n. Okay, so for sufficiently large value of n, this particular value is very high, larger than this thing, because you see, you just simply take n equal to 100. So this value will be 100 power 100. It means 100 multiplied how many times? 100 times. But it is what? 1 into 2 into 3 into up to 100. Okay, and it is just 2 power 100. Okay, so this is a very simple example. Log n will take the slowest time, and this 2 power n will take the fastest time. Right. So in this course, actually our target is to find the time complexity of algorithm. So target should be always to get this kind of time complexities, because this value is quite lower, right? Okay. So if your algorithm, after analyzing an algorithm, your time complexity is something around this exponential, okay, then that is a big headache, right? Okay, so these are very few questions, previous year GATE questions I have taken. So you just try to arrange these functions in increasing order of their values, right? So you just follow this formula. Okay, so just follow that formula and you just arrange them. Okay. So here I have given a very useful table just to check the growth of different functions based upon the input size n, right? So clearly you can mark one thing, right? So the value of n is very small, so somehow all the functions, they are giving us result deviating from this rule, right? But when the value of n is sufficiently large, for example the last value you check, right? So log n, it is taking less time, only 18, 324, and you just check the last value, 10 power 7. Okay, so you can just check all these by running your algorithm by increasing the suitable values or by supplying some suitable values of this n. Okay. So now let me tell you some standard functions we will use in our this algorithm paper. First one is what? This monotonic function. Okay, so in monotonic function, the function will be either increasing or the function will be decreasing. So a function fx is said to be monotonic increasing if fm is greater than equal to fn for m greater than n. It means if the value of input x increases, then the value of fx will also increase. So that is what monotonic increasing function. And if the reverse thing happens, then that is called monotonic decreasing function. It means we are increasing the input value of x, but the result fx value is decreasing. That is what. Okay. For example, we will take fx equal to x square, right? It is a monotonic increasing function. Why? Because f2 is greater than f1, because f2 value is 4, f1 value is 1. Right? But if we will take fx equal to 1 by x, that is a monotonic decreasing function, right? Because fx equal to 1 by x means f1 will be what? 1 by 1, 1, and f2 will be 1 by 2. So that f2 value, 1 by 2 value is less than 1. So that is monotonic decreasing function, right? So next is floors and ceiling function. Okay, so floor we know already. Floor means the ground floor, the ground value, and ceiling means the upper value or the capping value. Okay, so given any decimal value, the floor value is the highest integer less than or equal to that particular value, and ceiling means the smallest integer greater than or equal to that value. For example, the floor of 2.5 will be 2, the floor of 3.9 will be 3, because 2 is the greatest integer less than or equal to 2.5, 3 is the greatest integer less than or equal to 3.9, Similarly, the ceiling will be the upper capping value, right? 9.1 ceiling will be 10 because 10 is the smallest integer greater than or equal to 9.1. Ceiling of 12.7 will be 13 because 13 is the smallest integer less than equal to greater than equal to 12.7, right? So these are also very useful formula, you can just verify them, right? Polynomials already you know from your school days. So Pn is a polynomial. So here I varies from 0 to d. It means the polynomial degree is maximum d. Okay, so it can be expanded like this: a0 plus a1 plus a2 n square. Okay, so this thing, it is a polynomial of degree d, provided the value of this a d. Sorry, printing mistake. It is not about d. It is a d. Subscript will be there. It is not equal to what? 0. Right. For example, in quadratic equation, ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. It is a quadratic equation provided the value of a is not equal to 0. Right. Okay. So always remember this thing. If Pn is a polynomial of degree d, then that is always equal to theta of n power d. Okay. So now these are the simple properties of your exponential functions, and you all know this from your school days. Something a power 0 is equal to 1, a power 1 is that is equal to 1, that is equal to a, sorry, a power minus 1 is equal to 1 by a power m bracket power n is equal to a power mn, a power m into a power n is equal to a power m plus n, and a power m by a power n is equal to a power m minus n. Okay. So now these are different logarithms notation we shall be using. So log n, it is called your binary logarithm. So simply writing log n means it is same as log n base 2, right? And ln n means it is natural logarithm. So writing ln n is equivalent to log n base e, and this is called the exponentiation of logarithm. Log n power k, it means log n base 2 whole power k, and log n means we are applying that logarithm twice, so that is called composition of logarithms, right? Like composition of functions we have discussed in discrete mathematics. So these are few important formulas related to logarithm. This particular thing, b, here base is b, this is equal to a, right? And log ab is equal to log a plus log b. The base will remain same every year, c. Similarly, log a by b base c is equal to log a base c minus log b base c. Similarly, log a power n base b is equal to n log a base b. And here actually we are doing the splitting, right? And I think here you are having a printing mistake, right? Log a base b is equal to log a base c into log b base c. So here it will have what? Multiplication, right? So log a base b, that is equal to log a by log b, having a common base c. Log a base b is equal to 1 by log b base a, right? So similarly you just go through these formulas, right? And a factorial function, you know, n factorial means the product of all integers up to n, 1 into 2 into 3 up to n. So this is a useful formula to find factorial of any integer, and this formula is called Stirling's approximation formula to calculate factorial. So this one is actually useful to solve all these questions given. So we have to prove that n factorial is equal to little o n power n, right? So assume that this is fn and this is gn. So fn equal to n factorial and gn equal to n. Then you find the value of limit fn by gn n tends to infinite. So now in place of n factorial, you just apply that Stirling's formula. So that then gn value is this. Just try to have the simplification. Again we are getting this. So this is in which form? Infinite by infinite form. So just apply L'Hospital rule. So find the differentiation of this. So now you see this is a function, complex function. Here you are having n, here you are having n. So you just apply that formula uv for differentiation. Differentiation of uv equal to u into differentiation of v plus v into differentiation of u. So I just apply differentiation to numerator and denominator separately. Just simplify the things, you will be getting 0. So limit fn by gn, n tends to infinite equal to 0 means fn is equal to little o gn. So you can write fn equal to little o gn. So similarly you can also prove the remaining formulas, right? Okay, so these are few practice questions meant for you. So you just try to solve all these questions. So any doubt, you just WhatsApp me or just comment in my YouTube channel, right? So this is all about the asymptotic notations which are used to determine the efficiency of algorithms, and these are very essential being a learner of algorithm paper, because without this asymptotic notation you cannot get into the subject. Okay, so in my next lecture I shall discuss what is recurrence and what are the different methods to solve a recurrence, because for any kind of algorithm our target will be to derive its corresponding recurrence, and next how to solve those recurrence in terms of these asymptotic notations, right? So we shall deliver in the next class. Thank you.